Someone asked me a question that I can say warmed my heart. He was aware of a machlokes that was getting a little worse than it was, and he felt he had the ability to put an end to the machlokes. And he wants to know if he's mechuyev. After all, he gets involved, it'll take time, it might take some effort, agmas nefesh, a little bit money, but he felt he could somehow restore the shalom between the two people that were machlokes. So I was happy that people are asking shaylas ben adam l'achavero, which typically doesn't happen. But also true, I was wondering, what's the shayla? You know, we start our day every morning, we quote the Mishnah in Masechta Peah. There are certain mitzvahs that oichol pariseim ba'olam hazeh, and of course the main schar is olam haba. And one of them right there is avos shalom ben adam l'achavero, bringing shalom between people that are machlokes is an incredible mitzvah that we have the schar in this world. But you think about it, there's a little even more to it, because the basic klal and hashkafa is that schar b'hai al maleka, the world, this silly world, cannot produce enough schar to do for a mitzvah, and that's why schar b'hai al maleka. So do you ever wonder why this group of mitzvahs, we do get schar in this world? Why are they different than any other mitzvah? And the question is even stronger, because if you look at the Mishnah and Peah, and you see all the mitzvahs in this group, that's schar b'olam hazeh, there's one common denominator. They're all mitzvahs bein adam l'achavero. So it's even a bigger kasha. First of all, why do we get schar in this world? And why just for bein adam l'achavero? So the Rosh, and the Rosh is printed on the side of the page in the Mishnayis Peah, which is printed in the back of Masechta Brachos. And I quote his Lashon, Kekadosh Baruch Hu chafetz yoisa b'mitzvah she'aseh ben mitzoyin habriyos mitzvah bein adam l'koinai. It's hard for me to say it, but the Baruch Hu has more nachas from bein adam l'chaveroi than bein adam l'makom, and therefore there's more schar. I mean, we talk about the importance of bein adam l'chaveroi. This Rosh says it all, that there's more schar bein adam l'chaveroi than bein adam l'makom. Of course, I should add, Iyun Tefillah is in our Mishnah, that's bein adam l'makom. So if you look at Rashi in Shabbos Kuf Chav Zayin, the top of Kuf Chav Zayin with bayis, Rashi says Tefillah is b'chlal gemilas chasadim, and I think we know why. A person davens for someone else, so right away Tefillah could be bein adam l'chaveroi. But the biggest question is v'salmut Torah keneged kula. Salmut Torah keneged kula. Mitzvah Talmud Torah is not bein adam l'chaveroi, but adam l'makom. Why is that included in this Mishnah? So if you look at the Rambam, the Pirush Mishnayis, on this Mishnah, the Rambam says something incredible. Ki b'Talmud Torah yizke ha'adam l'chol zeh. Through learning Torah and living Torah and becoming Torah, then a person becomes a better adam l'chaveroi. And he quotes the Chazal, Talmud meivli dei ma'isa. In other words, of course Talmud Torah is a mitzvah b'in adam l'makom, but the objective of it, the purpose of it, is to make us better people. So therefore Talmud Torah is also b'in adam l'chaveroi. But be that as it may, we definitely see that there's a special schar for these mitzvahs, including havas shalom ben adam l'chaveroi. So there's no doubt about it, it's a very real chiyuv. The question is, to what extent does one have to get himself into it to be able to do this mitzvah? And maybe a little more challenging, as we'll see. Can a person sometimes do an issa to promote shalom or restore shalom? Now for us it sounds strange doing an issa, but we'll soon see there are a number of mekayros and chazal that maybe it is mutter to do an issa when need be. So Lamais, I want to tell you, this is not a Musa Shmuz. We're going to learn a sugya like every other sugya with Gemaras and Rishonim. But it's amazing how many Gemaras we're going to touch upon just to get to the maskana, the sugya of Havah Shalom in Halacha. Good. We know it's a Mishnah, it's a Chiyav to bring Shalom. What's the Makar of it? Who status? So the Gemara in Kedushin Daf Mem, actually, Gemara is talking about mitzvah, the reason why these group of mitzvahs in Masechta Peah has a schar of arichas yomim. So the Gemara goes through different mekayres why there's a schar of arichas yomim. Then the Gemara asks, havas shalom, how do you know by havas shalom there's a schar of arichas yomim? Because it says, bakei shalom v'rotfeyu. The pasuk in Tehillim says you have to pursue shalom v'rotfeyu. And it says also a pasuk of Rodiv tzedakah v'chesed yimtza chayim. So obviously Rodiv tzedakah v'chesed and v'rotfeyu teaches us that a person that promotes shalom will get arichas yomim. So what do we see? Besides the schar of arichas yomim, the makor of the mitzvah, the chiv avos shalom, is a pasuk in Tehillim that we say Shabbos davening, bakei shalom v'rotfeyu. Now that is a tremendous insight into the importance of this mitzvah. You see, we know we have the raises and the rabbanans, but there's something in between. The Gemara Bava Kama calls a divrei Kabbalah. Doesn't mean Kabbalah in that sense, but it means something that's not a pasuk in the Torah, but it's a pasuk in Tanakh, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. So although it doesn't have the status of the Raisa, but the Gemara in Bava Kama says divrei Kabbalah kedivrei Torah, and by a suffix divrei Kabbalah you have to be machma like a Raisa. I guess a good example would be the mitzvah of Purim, the mitzvah of Purim, relating the Megillah, the Shleach Monais, Matanos Tavyonim. Since it says the pasuk in the Megillah, it's more than a D'Rabbanan. Zok Techareidim in Mitzvah Medivrei Kabbalah Siman Yud Tes, and he says that a person should be mitalmidav shel Aaron, oyev shalom v'rodef shalom, and that's one of the mitzvahs midivrei Kabbalah. So we see a very prominent source based on a pasuk in Tehillim. But l'chayra, there could be a different source, and this is also the Chareidim. This is a little later, Perik Dalid, Ois Nun Zayin. He says something like almost matter-of-factly, but it's very, very big yisoid. Bakei shalom v'rotfeyu d'raisehi. T'chiv d'raise. Where does it say? Dafilu b'shas milchama. We find the parsha Shoftim. When you're going to war, Tziva Yisbarach lahagdim shalom. Shenema kisikr v'le'ir lilachem aleh v'karasa le'el l'shalom. Maduch, when you're going to fight a war, there's a mitzvah of calling out shalom. So when there's two people fighting, there's a mitzvah to make shalom. So he learns it based on the pasuk in Parsha Shoftim, v'karasa aleha l'shalom. There's another source, and there's also the Raisa, and that's a smak. Smak is one of the Rishonim. Mitzvah ches, he mentions the following the Raisa that we all know. Mitzvah lev es chaveroi, you have to love every other yid. D'chsiv after echa kamoicha, ubichlal zeh havas shalom bein adam lechaveroi. So it's noteworthy. The smak, one of the Rishonim, when he quoted the mitzvah the Raisa of V'after Echa Kamoicha, his first example is V'after Echa Kamoicha. Is Havas Shalom. You ask me why? Why that the first example? I think anybody that lives in Olam Hazeh knows why. You think about Rahman, let's start what machlokes does, the churban machlokes makes, how many issurim a person could do a machlokes, the terrible agmas nefesh that machlokes causes, period levavais, it destroys mishpachas, it destroys neighbors, friends, it destroys shuls. So the biggest chesed is to prevent machlokes, or stop machlokes, or put an end to machlokes. The Rambam in the Geras Musa, he wrote to his son Rav Avram, and just to hear the words is uplifting. Al tishaktu es nafshei seichem b'machlokes hamachala haguf hanefesh. It just destroys. Machala guf, nefesh, mamin, uman nishoy. What do you have after a machlokes? And he writes very poetically, Isi levonim hishchiru, white became black. Pachais nifchasu, mishpachais nisvachu, sarim husru, migdulasam, ayoris gedoybis nisaru, v'kibutzim nifradu, v'chasidim, v'anshei mais amuna nevdu, all because of machlokes. And then he says something very powerful. Nevi'im nivu. The Nevi'im tried to say a nevuah about machlokes. Chachamim chikmu, filosofim chifsu, v'yisvu l'sapa ros ha-machlokes, v'lo l'tachlisam. They tried to say the churban of machlokes, but no one could ever properly portray the churban of machlokes, and therefore he tells his son, run away from machlokes at any cost. So no doubt about it, if you want a real Avas Yisrael, a real V'havta Kamoicha, and someone's in a machlokes, get involved. Or more importantly, as we'll see, avoid machlokes. Try to get along with people. Try to be mavata. And I'll tell you another interesting a makor for the chiyuv of baki shalom v'ratfeyu, and this is a chayshim mishpat sugya. The Shulchan Aruch, actually in chayshim mishpat siman yud beis, based on a Gemara Sanhedrin Avavim at beis, a dayan is overseeing a din Torah, and zok the mechaba, that's the first shita in the Gemara, asal of tzoya. You have to work hard and get to the truth. There's one right and one wrong. You might take the easy way out, quote unquote, and make a pshara, compromise. You know, we made a settlement. Both are happy. That's easy, but it's wrong. Why? Yikav edin esahar. There has to be mishpat. Ein merachim medin. But the second shita says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says, mitzvah leftzaya. Why? The pasuk in Zechariah, emes umishpat shalom shiftu bareichem. Okay, you want to do emes and mishpat? Make shalom. What does it mean, make shalom? Make a compromise. Not only it's not an issa, it's a mitzvah. And this is what we pass in a chayshim mishpat siman yud beis, siv beis. The Mechaber adds that even if the dayan sees in which direction is heading, that's Reuven and Shimon are having machlokes, and the dayan sees that Reuven is right. He could see from the beginning, he's experienced. If he lets it go long enough, it's going to be obvious that Reuven is right. Even then, mitzvah of tzoya. Even when you see who's right, if you could work out and they both agree to a settlement, it's a mitzvah. Not just you're allowed to, it's a mitzvah. Frag the man, see if you can't test what's going on here. You're taking money from Reuven unjustly. Reuven's right. Why are you giving here part to Shimon? Zok this man, I read the Lashon. Ein bezeh mishumat lechaveroi, ki noyach lechaveroi sheyevater ma lebaldinoi, kidei sheyetavech hashalom beinayim. Every year deep down, so I guess it's a new type of an umdana, of a zachan adam. Every person deep down wants to walk out of Bezdin b'shalom. And we know the human weakness, when you go to the Torah and you lose, the person loses, he can't be soivelous. He's all angry. You know, if the Rav says the chicken is treif, there's no problem. But the Rav says I'm wrong, oh, that he can't be soivel. So the Rav is no good, and the other person is no good, and his shul is no good, and the whole world is no good because he lost. And that's human nature. So the Sma is saying a person is willing to give up his money to keep shalom. And this is a chayshim mishpat issue. So obviously, we could say that the mitzvah leftzaya is because emes and mishpat is accomplished best with shalom, like the pasuk says. So we have another source to the importance of bakei shalom v'ratfeyu. The Medrash Bamidbar Siman Yotes Ois Chav Zayin says an interesting observation. But derech klal, the mitzvah is when you encounter the mitzvah, ki sivga, ki savoy, ki sachboil. If you encounter a kansipar, so you have to do what you have to do. One place the pasuk says not only do it, but run after it. And that is bakei shalom v'ratfeyu. Bakei shalom b'mchaimcha, v'ratfeyu b'makamach. It doesn't go, try again, but don't give up. So here we see not only is it a chiyuv deraisa, but it's more than other mitzvahs. The Avos Rab Nosson in Perikut Beis Ois Gimel speaks about Aaron HaKohen's incredible midah of Rudef Shalom, and it's a lesson to what extent the person should go. The Avos Rab Nosson says in no uncertain terms that Aaron lied. Two people were fighting. So Aaron went to one person and says, you know, your friend, you know what he's doing right now? He's pulling out his hair. He's tearing his begodim. He can't be soivel knowing that he's a machlokes with you. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. So the other friend says, really, that's what he's holding? Oh, that means he learned his lesson? Okay, I'll forgive him. Then he goes to the other person and says the same story. They say, Baba Maisa, you know what your friend is doing right now? He's tearing at his hair, he's pulling he's pulling at his skin, he can't be soivel, machlokes. So then, Kishenivsku zeh b'zeh, Gafafu v'nashku zeh l'zeh. Unbelievable. I mean, obviously he lied twice. But don't say, oh, that's Aaron HaKohen. I'm not Aaron HaKohen. We learned the Mishnah Avos, Perik Aleph, Mishnah Yud Beis, having mitamidav shel Aaron, or yeshav rodiv shalom. It's not just Aaron's specialty, that's our chiyuv. Now, the truth is there are probably more Mekayres, but I think it's clear that Havah Shalom is a regular mitzvah, maybe more than other mitzvahs. Rabbeinu Yoin in the Geras HaTshuva Ois Yudalid, he writes that every city has to choose people that their job is to make shalom. They have the strength, they have the muscle to be able to force people to come together. And he says, but you know what the qualifications is? What Rabbeinu Yoin writes. They have to anoshim smeichim. They have to be happy people, because if you're depressed, the people don't want to hear. And granted, it's probably based on the Gemara, the well-known Gemara. It's an incredible Gemara in Tainis Chav Beis. That Rabbi saw was told by Eliyahu Navi, those two people, they're B'nai Olam Haba. Why? So Rashi says one of the pshatim is they make shalom between people. And they were inshi beduchi. They had a good sense of humor. You know, then they're freiliche people. I guess to make shalom, you have to have the right qualification. You have to have a good personality, a friendly personality. But Rabbeinu Yoin said the chiyuv on every city to have oisa shalom. The Shevet HaKasi in Chayla Gimel Simon Shin Yud, he says if someone broke a shalom, l'halach he could ask for money. Just like there's a you pay money for a shadchan, someone told you about a property that you could buy. But if the minig is not to pay, you're not mechuyev to pay. But it's a tremendous service. In fact, the Paiskim Clare, the Rishonim say, why is there no bracha if you're making shalom? So the simple teretz is not often does it work. But the real teretz, the Rishonim say, is we don't make a bracha without mechaveirei, because maybe the person won't accept it. But it has the regular tzuras ha-mitzvah. But there's more to it. And that's a different aspect of this mitzvah of shalom. Not only is there a mitzvah to get out of the terrible quicksand of machlokes, but there's a mitzvah, don't fall into the quicksand in the first place. And raise appel, another makar daraisa. The psak says, lois is going to do. Don't, which pasuk means when a person loses a beloved relative, don't tear your skin out of grief. But Zoktamar Yivamas Daf Yudalid, one of the pshatim of lois is going to do is loisasu agudais. You can't have in one city some people wearing tefillin on Chol HaMoed and some don't. I should say one shul. You can't have that. That's the Mishnah Berurah's mashal for lois is going to do. Loisasu agudais. Zokta Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Perik Yud Beis Halacha Yudalid. What's wrong? That's Torah. Torah is kefatish voitzet and people have their own minhagim. Zokta Rambam. That's very nice to have your own minhagim in your own city, in your own shul. But if in one shul you're going to have people doing like this and some doing like that, dovazeh gormel machlokes gedolos shenemalois is going to do. And the Mishnah Berurah and Simon Lamed Alsif Cotton Ches gives an example, which is not his own, it's earlier sources. In one shul, some wear tefillin Chol HaMoed and some don't. Now I hope to give a shir about lois is going to, it's a big sugya, but you know what it means? I'll tell you what it means. If let's say you have a shul that the established minig is, we don't wear tefillin Chol HaMoed. Someone comes from out of town and he has no place else to daven. In this shul, so he comes and wearing his tefillin. So Mishnah Berurah infers that he's Ivan Nisa Daraisa. You want to wear tefillin? Very nice. Go elsewhere. Now the truth is, for him it's a chiyuv wearing tefillin. The Rosh says you make a bracha, even on Chol HaMoed. So it's not a joke. He's giving up wearing tefillin not to promote machlokes. You know, you come into my shul, you're wearing tefillin, no one else does. They feel funny. They feel. So look how much the Torah is mechayev us to keep shalom. Or how about the sugya and psachim dafnun? It's a mishnah. You can't do your own minhagim in a different city. That's the issur al yishana adam mipnei machlokes. It's lashon of the Mishnah. The Mechaber in Orach Chaim Tovsa Machesid Gimel and Dalet gives different halachas about that. Grinyane Svira, some people get the first, some people get the second. You can't come with a haircut in a city that they keep the second minute, you keep the first minute. It's an issur of machlokes. Re'ez Apella, it's a halach in Yeridea, Kuf Yud Bayis, Sif Yud Gimel. The Shach explains it like this way. If you have a guest, and your meaning is you don't eat paspalta, even though there are most megel paspalta, you don't eat paspalta, and the guest does. So you have to make a moitzi on the paspalta. I never eat paspalta, but if you're not going to make a bracha on the paspalta, you're saying, I'm from and you're not. Oh, you eat paspalta, oh, you make a bracha. So the balabas is allowed to eat paspalta because the chashash of machlokes, eva, a pliya. That's included in Bakish Shalom for Atfeil. Now, of course, as the Shach explains, if it's Pas Akum, which is an Issa Gomor, all agree that you can do. But Pas Palta, presumably, like the Minig of the Ramah, is only a Chumrah. So, you have to give up a Chumrah to maintain Shalom. So look what you have to invest to keep Shalom. You have to give up a mitzvah of Tefillin. You have to give up a Hiddur in Kashrus. And again, there's a lot more to say, but I think this will say it all. The Rabbi Yehuda had an Eidim. He was the Rav of Poison, Rabbi Yosef. He's called Rabbi Yosef HaTzadik for a good reason. Rabbi Yehuda in a number of places writes that my whole body shakes when I think of you. And he writes to him in a letter. Rabbi Yehuda was a giant, I don't have to tell you. But Rabbi Yehuda writes, my body shakes. Kol Gufi is trembling from your go'inus. So he was a big tzaddik. His name was Yosef HaTzadik. He was asked from a Rav in a city, also a big tzaddik rather, and it's printed in the Eina B'Doylach, a Masech Psachim, the Akdama, that the city hired a chazan, who was a very good chazan, but they found out that in his private life he was Kal Shebakalim, the Lashon. The Rav tried to replace him, but the people wouldn't hear of it because they got a good chazan, what's more important than a good voice, Tzidkis is, secondary. And the Rav felt that he didn't have to make a machlokes, but he could hopefully do it. So he asked Rabbi Yosef HaTzadik, what should he do? So I quote the tshuva, it's very short, you could probably memorize it by heart. Mutav laham etzelem beheichel, v'al yarba machlokes b'Yisrael. Now the Ma'aser Rapam once told me that's not a klal for every situation. Sometimes in a situation the Rabbis take a strong stance. But let me tell you, it's not just Rabbi Yosef HaTzadik. Ramshik and Orach Chaim, the tshuva Siman Reish Tzadik Dalet, the Talmud of Chassam Soifa, by them, Kanoyis was a part of their job, so to speak. But about Tekeya, again, that also was Kali Yadas. But his Mila was, he knew how to blow on the right side of his mouth, and the other Baal Tekeya was an Ish Tzadik, blew from the left side. Shik says, what's the Shaila? Either the Tzadik goes first, but Bavade Ein Lases Ketata B'Shvil Dom Ke'elu, Ki HaShalom Dava Gadol. Imagine the shul, Mamshik is sanctioning a shul to have a Baal Tekeya, Mikali Hadas. But don't make machlokes. The Mishnah Berurah says the same thing regarding a Shatshe in a Hogan Tavkov Pei Aleph, Sif Katan Yud Aleph, that even though on Yom Neroyim there has to be a Chaz and a Tzadik, but not if it brings machlokes. And let me tell you another psak halacha, this from the Heilige Rambam and Yonah Diyoyma. The well-known Gemara, it's in Shulchan Aruch. In fact, Mechaber devotes a whole siman in Hilchos Chanukah, that even though we know the greatness of Ner Chanukah, a Pesumei Nisa, but if a person has limited funds and either he could buy Ner Shabbos, a candle for Shabbos, or Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos has priority. Why? Shalom bayis. So the Rambam then adds his own addition. Godol HaShalom, Shekol HaTorah ניתנה לעשות shalom בעולם. The whole Torah, Bereshis until Ein Kol Yisrael. Shenema Deracheh Da'achinoim V'chol Nesivosei HaShalom. Now what that means is that's a different shmooze. But the Rambam is saying Kol HaTorah ניתנה לעשות shalom בעולם. But Yemes, you find this in the Gemara. The Gemara in Gittin Daf Nun Tes, Eilu Dvar Medarkei Shalom. Some of them we know, that the person, a Kohen always has to get the first Aliyah. So that was prompted al Darkei Shalom. Frag the Gemara, only Darkei Shalom Daraisa. Zechiyev to Mechaber a Kohen. So the Gemara says, no, it means darkei shalom, a deraisa and darkei shalom. For Eg Dimar, and I quote, it's not only giving a kohen that's darkei shalom. Kol ha-Torah kula nami mipnei darkei shalom. What's the Gemara? Dichsiv d'achei darkei noyam v'chol nasiv v'iseh ha-shalom. So the Rambam is saying Kol Torah kula is shalom. The Gemara is saying Kol Torah kula is shalom. No. I think I'm confident that we're convinced what it means, shalom. Now, the next question is, to what extent can one go to maintain or restore shalom? So, are you allowed to do an issa? So right away we recoil. Doing an issa chas to shalom. The ends don't justify the means, mitzvah b'aveira, right? But you know, the Gemara in 5 places, Shabbos Kuf Tezayin and Makis, it's Nedarim, Chulin, and Sukkah, that the Gemara says, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, you're allowed to erase the name of Hashem to keep Shalom. The Saita. You're allowed to erase the name of Hashem on Isra Sasun Kain. That's what Shalom is. But you know, it's even a bigger pell than the Gemara, the way the Maral learns the Gemara. Maral Kedarka is omak miyachilenu, but he says it as in such a dava pashit. You're erasing Hashem's name is a terrible aveira. That's vibaratem eshmam leisasikin Hashem lekeichem. But what are you doing? You're maintaining shalom. We all know the Gemara. Shalom is one of the shmoyis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's not just a soisa almanas live nice. You're erasing Hashem's name here and restoring Hashem's name there. So you didn't lose. Simple. Erasing Hashem's name, but you're bringing Hashem's name, shalom. But there's more than that. The Gemara says in Yevamos Taf Samachayim at Beis, Mutar la'adam l'shanit b'dvar shalom. A person's allowed to lie to keep shalom. And what's the makar? We'll soon see. We'll lay in it next week in Vayechi, that the brothers told Yosef, remember, Tati told us before he died that you should stay b'shalom, and others don't take revenge. Frank Dimar, where do we find Yaakov said that? Terry said he didn't say that. They were allowed to lie to keep shalom. Now the Gemara used the lashon l'shanais b'dava, but it's a lie. You know, Pam once told us that the Chazon Ish could not say the word sheker. Sheker to him was nivel peh. It was such a disgusting thing. Sheker. The Torah is emes, the Baruch Shem is emes. How could sheker? Like he couldn't say the word. He would say nisht emes. And here the Gemara is saying you're allowed to lie for shalom. But it's more than that. Rav Nosson oima mitzvah. Not just you're allowed to, it's a mitzvah. Shenema, the pasuk in Shmuel Aleph, the Baruch Shem told Shmuel to go and tell Shaul that his days are numbered as a melech. So Shmuel said, how could I do that? He's going to kill me. So the Baruch said, no, just tell him that you're coming for something else. So here, the Baruch sanctioned Shmuel saying a lie. So now it's not just a laheta, it's a mitzvah. Now, as if this is not enough, the next words of the Gemara is the biggest chiddush. Godla shalom, she'af HaKadosh Baruch Hu shina boy. Not only are you allowed to lie, it's a mitzvah to lie, but the Baruch Shem, I said, like, 1,000 kaviyach is not enough. But kaviyach 1,000 times, the Baruch Shem lied. Why? Because Sari Meinu said, Adoni Zakin. When the Baruch Shem retold that story, it was that you, Sari said, Ani Zakanti. Now this is a double chiddush. First of all, the Baruch Shem lies. And also, what is the chashash of Shalom? You know, Avram was a tzaddik, and for many years of his marriage, he never saw his wife, an ish kaddish moed, and he was no younger man. He was 99 years old. And he himself understood that how could he have children at this age? But if the Baruch Shem will say that Sarah said about you're old, what do you think, Avram will get angry? What are the chances that Avram will get angry? But even a slightest chashash of disturbing shalom bayis, the Baruch Shem lied. It's pill of play, and you think about it. Maybe there'll be a chashash of shalom bayis. But it's another Gemara. And again, all these things will soon to halacha l'maisa. Ksubas at the end of Tazayin and Bayis. What do you do when you're making a Shabbat Bracha speech? So Beis Shammai basically says, Kala K'moshe, you know, you got to talk emes. Beis Hillel says, no, Kala Nava Chasuda. Frag to Beis Shammai to Beis Hillel, what about Midvar Sheket Tirchak? So Beis Hillel said, what are you going to do? Get up and say she's ugly? So what's going on here? So in Even Ezer, Mechaba and Siman Samachei, Sif Aleph, Paskins like Beis Hillel. You have to get up no matter what and say Kala Nava Chasuda. Now we'll soon see what that means. But think about this. We have a Gemara in Yevamis, a Gemara in Ksubis, we'll soon see a Gemara in Bava Metzia, 3 things Talmidei Chacham lie. And what's going on here? Don't we know, call it Gemara in Sanhedrin, Dav Tzadik Beis, call it Machal B'Dibure Kil Oivad Avodah Zarah, or Sanhedrin Kuv Gimel. There are 4 kitas that are not Makabel Panei Ashchina, and one of them is a Shakranim. And yet here, not only it's Mutta, it's a mitzvah, and the Bayis did it. It's mystifying. So the Ritva on that Gemara in Ksubis says it very simply. Whatever is al darkei shalom, there's no chashash of sheker. But what does that mean? So Rav Dessler in the Michtam Aliyah Chelik Aleph, it's page 94, says very simple. Emes and sheker is very much subjective. Emes is what brings Ratzon Hashem and what brings mitzvahs. Sheker destroys. Emes builds. So when someone says Emes, which is going to cause machlokes, that sheker. Rabbi Yankov in the Emes LeYaakov in Parashat Tovos, it's Perek Chav Zayin, Pasuk Bayis, has a very similar approach, but he says like one mashal, I'll embellish it slightly, but that's what he means to say. Imagine someone is home in the morning and a yid comes running in, help quickly, he's white and pale like a ghost there, someone's running after you to kill me, hide me quick. He goes, quick, get under the bed. 15 seconds later, this huge 7-foot guy comes in with a 2-foot dagger dripping from blood from his previous victim, and he goes, you Jew, look me in the eye, tell me the truth, you people are honest people. Is someone hiding in your house? You say, yes he is. Because you can't lie, right? That's not only sheker, that's ritzicha, right? What's the pshat? Emes and sheker is subjective. And Rabbi Yankov says further, Yaakov Avinu was the semel of emes, Tit emes to Yaakov. And we find throughout his life, he's lying. With Lavan and with Esav. The teretz is, for Yaakov, he says, Avram and Yitzchak had an akedas Yitzchak, and Yaakov had the akedas Yaakov. What was that? He had to lie. To him, it was so against his nature, it was such a traumatic experience, he had to lie, but he lied. Because emes is sometimes sheker, and sheker is sometimes emes. So obviously, when a person is mechuyev to lie, he shouldn't feel guilty. I mean, it should be difficult, but don't be, that's a mitzvah. Mitzvah l'shanit, the Bayis lied. And then you can understand the Gemara in Bava Metzia, the end of Chav Gimel Amud Beis. Bahani tlas mili avidi rabbanon de mishanev milayu. They lie. Masechta, Puria, Ushpiza, which I'm not even getting into now, it's a share for itself. But what I want to bring out, Toyses asked the kasha. Only 3 things, and what about darkei shalom that you're mechuyev to lie? Toyses, no, it's hainuhach. These 3 things are darkei shalom. So we see a sugya of emes, a superpower of emes, Chaysom Shekadosh Baruch Hu emes, but there's a bigger power that's called shalom. And to keep shalom, you're allowed to lie, you're mechuyev to lie, the Bayis lied, and it's not a lie. But before we apply this halacha l'maisa, we have to learn one more Gemara. The Gemara in Yevamis, Samach Gimel, the Gemara is hard to understand, but the Gemara says Rav had a terrible wife who was marmi mavis. Typically, when he wanted lentils for breakfast, she made him beans. Or then I guess a Muslim more understandable. What would you like for supper? Chicken. Fine, no problem. And she served him fish. Next day, what do you want? Fish? Yeah, great, no problem. Serves chicken. And this went on. Now, Chia, his son, when he got older, he realized this is terrible. This is a terrible problem. So he decided to be a chacham, and he asked Rav, what would you like for supper? Chicken. Great. So he went to the mother, and says, Tati wants fish for supper. Oh, wonderful. She made him chicken. And went on day after day, he got what he wanted. So he told his son, Chia, like matter of fact, your mother's getting better and better. So he said, not really. And he told his father the plan. So Rav first was spoiled, goes, oh, how come I didn't think of that? But he said, no, I could do that, but you can't do that. Shenem the pasuk in Yirmiyah, limdu l'shayim daber sheker. In other words, you can't do that. You have to stop. So the obvious question is, well, you're allowed to lie, but not your son? And if it's taka sheker, why do you quote the pasuk, limdu l'shayim daber sheker? Say the pasuk, b'da sheker tirchak. So again, this Gemara could also be a share for itself, but the Meiri learns Pashut Pshat. That of course there's a heta or a mitzvah to lie. But that's only a last resort. No other choice. Rav was willing to go through this churban, but not lie. He said, I can handle it. But when I see that you or my son is starting to lie, even if it's the truth, but on a daily basis, you're lying. You're going to be a victim of limdu l'shoinim daber sheker. Every day he did this. And we'll soon see, because bekviyas, it's not healthy to lie every day. So Zokta Meiri, v'zel l'shoin kotre, Rav held, mutav shetamayt b'merda. I'd rather live my life of churban, mishatargul atzmacha l'shaker. A bigger churban than having such a wife is that such a son is going to learn to lie, even though it's a mitzvah. Because hergon asateva, it's pila ploy. In other words, chinuch habanim is so vitally needed in everything, but especially in emes. Someone showed me a quote from one of the Chachamei Umas Ha'olam, which doesn't deserve that title, but he says like the following, and I quote, lying has become an integral part of American culture. We lie and don't even think about it. We lie for no reason, and we lie to those closest to us. That's the sheker that we live in. And the yid has to be moisa nefesh for the emes. Rav was moisa nefesh for the emes. The Shla Kodesh in Shar Oisi is Derech Eretz, writes the following. He met a chosid Sfardi, tzaddik a Sfardi yid, who could not lie for all the money in the world. That's what he writes. So I want to ask him, where'd you get this from? He said, I'll tell you the truth, my father. My father had a very unique approach in chinuch habanim. If we did something wrong, which we did, so our father gave us a choice. If you admit that you did something wrong, I'll reward you. And he gave us money, because we said the truth. If we tried to get out of it, and he found out that we were lying, we got double punishment. And my father trained us to say emes, and he was mekayim, the pasuk, emes kinei v'al timka. So I was thinking, that's a person's attitude in chinuch. If he's not careful with sheker, it's limdu l'shonim daber sheker. You're training your child to lie. The Gemara says in Sukkah Mem Vav Mid Beis, don't promise a child something and don't keep it. Why? Because limdu l'shonim daber sheker. So the poskim ask, what do you mean? You have to give it. You have to keep a word. There's no. Even if you have a good reason not to keep the word, you have a good excuse. But in the child's mind, he said he's going to do it. He didn't do it. You're guilty of inadvertently limdu l'shonim daber sheker. That's the importance of ingraining emes, especially in the time we live in a world that's one big sheker. The Sefer Chassidim in Tov Sof Reish Samach Aleph says it beferish. He says, even though there's a heta to lie when you're allowed to in the three things or whatever the Gemara that we mentioned, but an ish emes will try to find a way to get out of it without lying. In other words, try to avoid it. The Yamshel Shleima in Yavamas Siman Mem Vav, in Lev Chaim, Chaim Falaji, in the Tshuva Chel Gav Siman Hey, say that a different yisoid, but it's Oget learned the Gemara. That even if there's a heta to lie, Zok the Yamshel Shleima, that's only an occasionally, a kroy. But a kviyos, you can't lie. And what's his makar? Our Gemara in Yavamis with the Maisa of Chia. Rav held you're allowed to lie, but not you. Why? Because you did it on a daily basis. And that is going to bring a churban in limdu l'shonim daber sheker. So let's apply this more specifically to the unfortunate cases that we hear. First of all, someone asked me, like I began with, he knows a machlokes, should he get involved? And the answer is, of course he should get involved. It's a mitzvah deraisa. It's something very, very precious. It takes time, so that's what the Rambam gave you time for. It takes effort, no, so for that the Mishnah lefum tzara agra. But that's what time is for. You know, the Chavetz Chaim has a son, wrote about his father in Chayla Gimel and Kol Kisvei Chavetz Chaim. So he writes there, my father, even though he's a tremendous masmid, was very busy with binat machlokes in Anyane of the city, and he would often spend hours trying to bring shalom between people that were in machlokes. And he said he remembers that they would say, if not for Yisrael Meyam, I would be fighting more. But he just convinced me to stop. Chofetz Chaim gave up a lot of time for Havah Shalom. Who could say he's potter? In America, they say, mind your own business. Might be true. But guess what? This is your own business. This is the chiyuv of Havah Shalom. We said it's their isis, their banan, their Kabbalah. Next question. Someone proposed a shidduch for you, for your son, whatever it is, and there's no shaykhs. But you can't say, leave me alone, I don't want to hear about that. Can you say I'm busy, even though you're not busy? You're lying. I mean, you have nothing in the horizon, but you know one thing, not him. So this is a good example of our sugya. To say I'm not interested in you is a psul gavra. You're invalidating him. No, for no reason. He doesn't know that it's incompatible. But if he'll get hurt, this is the heter that a person could say, I'm busy. Now, of course, like I told you earlier, if you could say it in a way that it's not a sheker, I'm thinking about something else, which is not a sheker. I'm thinking about a better person than you. So even though it's a little bit Genevas Das, but Genevas Das is certainly less of an incident sheker. The Orchas Tzadikim, in the end of Shar Sheker, like the Sefer Chassidim that I mentioned earlier, also says, even though someone could lie, but if you could find a way to avoid it, that would be a better option. Someone came over to me all excited, I got engaged. Do you know my shver? So he doesn't want to know that person's shver. He's a real shver. But what should he do? So the emphasis is, this is the Gemara in Ksubas Yud Zayin. Ketzer Ragdin Lefnei HaShver. Because the Gemara's svara is, what are you going to do? Now, if he asked you before he got engaged about his shver, so you could say the truth. You have to say the truth. But once it's engaged, so what are you going to do? You're going to make him feel bad? So you could say a nice thing that you know about him. You see, if you say a nice thing about him and leave out the 10 bad things, you didn't lie. That's Kalanah V'Chasuda. So that would be a good example of what the Gemara says, if it won't change anything, just try to, cover it up. Someone wants to give a chashuv person tzedakah, doesn't want to accept it. So the question is, can he give it as a matana? So the Shevet HaKasi Chelik Gimel Siman Reish Nun Beis, he says that since giving tzedakah ba'ofen covered is a chiyuv, and hurting someone's feeling is an issa, so although it's genevas das, because you're giving him as a matana, so he's going to be so makatoiv to you, you're going to get unjustifiable akaras hatoiv, so it's genevas das, but lemaisa, there's a heter, because otherwise you're going to hurt his feelings. So genevas das, like sheker, is muta b'makoim k'vayit habriyas. Another question that comes up here, someone's serving you food and you don't want to eat it. So we spoke about this a few weeks ago, that's part of the haftarach kamoicha, don't make the person feel bad, doesn't taste good, so you'll manage, nothing's going to happen. That might be included komasham bal bayis asay. So if someone gives you food that you don't like the taste, manage. You don't have to lie. No, but the problem is, if he gives you food, vegetables that you don't trust the bedikas taloyim, he has a very shvache hechsh, if any. And what are you going to do? It's an chashash deraisa. So this already is different, because this you can't eat it. So the Kaf HaChaim and Tov Kuf Sabachei Sivkot Lamed Vav quotes from the Shulchan Gavoya about someone that he goes to someone's house who's makel with stam yeinam. So you can't be makel. So then you have to say, I'm fasting today. I don't want to eat. I can't eat. Now, Lamaisa, when people give you food that you don't trust the kashrus, you're going to have to use a little bit of ingenuity. You could say, I'm full, I already ate. Or you could say, I'm fleishiks, even though you're not, but I guess you could say, I'm a boss of a dum. So maybe I know fleishiks, but the problem is the vegetables are parva, so it's not going to work. If he gives you an ice cream, it's chalav stam, and you don't eat chalav stam, you can say, I'm fleishiks. So Rabbi Yehuda, when he was faced such a dilemma, he would say, my doctor doesn't allow me to eat this. Who's the doctor? The Rambam. I don't know why he didn't say, he could have said, my doctor is Dr. Roy Fein Eman. That's the Rebbeinu Shalom. First wants you to eat vegetables that have questionable hechsher. But the Maisa, this is the point that you can eat it. If it's a question of kashrus, don't eat it, but get out of it. Of course, if it's just the taste is not so good, so manage. Someone said lashon hara about victim. We'll call victim. The victim hears and runs over to one of the shaymim and says, "Tell me the truth. What did he say something about me?" So the Chavetz Chaim in Hilchos Rechilas, Perik Aleph, Sif Ches, he says, in that case, if you're going to say what he said, you're causing machlokes and, of course, rechilas. So the eitzah is try to get out of it in a clever way. Like, why do you think everybody talks about you? Do you have a chip on your shoulder? Put the ball in his court. Or say something like, when you're young, you think everybody's talking about you. You get old, you'll see no one cares about you. That type of activity. But if it doesn't work, and he asks you point blank, you're allowed to say, no, he didn't talk about you. Now again, emes, that's emes. To avoid machlokes is emes. To say he spoke bad about you is sheker. That's why, if you can't work with Gnei Vazdas, then sheker. I remember once a bacha asked me, his parents wanted to play 3 hours ball every single day during the summer. Now he wasn't a bacha that was overstrained and he's very tense and full of anxiety. A normal bacha, but they were unreasonable. So I didn't know what to do. Keep it off. So Rapam said, no, he doesn't have to play ball. So what should he say? But he could say what he wants. I said, so what should he say? So I realized that was the aversion to saying to lie. But you have to lie. He said, of course you have to say I played. But he should feel that it's nishkan ligan. Say it in a way that you don't lose the sensitivity of emes. Let's say the victim approaches to speak himself. Say, I want you to tell me the truth. Did you say something about me? So here you might say, well, speaker, you dafsar nafshi. Why did you say lashon hara? But that doesn't make sense. The same halacha applies. The speaker should say, I didn't talk about you, and then do a lot of tshuva. In fact, let's say the speaker told people bad about Pliny, and I realized that besides lashon hara, I was mazik Pliny. So he wants to go back to all the shaymim and say, what I told you was sheker. I was just angry. Just disregard it. Could he do that? It's true. But that's the halacha of Ner Shalom. He's allowed to lie. Someone asked me, he wants to make a surprise birthday party, and he has to lie. He said, what's the heter to lie? Well, it's a tzorich. I said, you got a mistake. No heter of tzorich. Dak shalom is a heter. Masechta, puri, ushpiza. The problem with these type of shiurim is that people start making a conclusion. Whenever you have a good reason to lie, you're allowed to lie. And birthday party, surprise. Pam once told me he was a bach in yeshiva. He must have told me this happened 60 years earlier. He was a bach that mamish lied. So he went out and says, you're not allowed to lie. So the bach said without thinking, he says, you're allowed to lie b'pnei hashalom. If I say the truth, I'm not at peace with myself. I wish it would be a joke, but it's the corrupt way when a person doesn't think and just likes to find a heter to lie. Question. Someone told me a psak, which I can't give it that distinction, but the side of shalom bayis is lie your way out of trouble. In other words, say what you want and promise everything and just get out of it. Which of course is ridiculous. Lying is not a heter to make trouble. It's heter to get out of trouble. If someone forgot to do something, his wife all angry, so maybe there's a heter of shalom bayis. But to use the heter l'chatchila to promise things and do things and then get out of it is ridiculous. We have to remember what the chinuch writes in Mitzvah Ayin Daled. Hasheken nis'a'e v'nelach be'ein dov amos mimenu v'aklol v'me'er b'veis kol ha'aveho u'meishakel emes v'ein brach m'suya v'cholu ela basmodas elav masechem li'os emes k'moishu kel emes. We can't lose sight of the importance of emes. If there's a heter, it's only if it can't be avoided, and we don't lose our sensitivity to emes. Now, one point that has to be mentioned, although we had more time, is the shalom bayis aspect. Chaim Shmulevitz in the Amud Lametes of the Shmuzin, he wonders, what was the chance of Avram getting angry that you said I'm old? Or how dare you say I'm only 99 years old? What do you mean? That's old, no? And Sarah admitted she also was old. But shalom bayis is such a sensitive relationship that the Bereshtam lied because of that tiny, small chance of a breach in shalom bayis. Rapam once developed the same thing, and he said, and I quote, shalom bayis is a sensitive, strained relationship that needs constant nurturing. It has to be maintained. So basically, the point is, from the Rebbeinu Shalom's lying kaviyachal by shalom is an exceptional insight into the importance of shalom bayis. Now, how does one maintain shalom bayis? What's the best eitzah? To be a good spouse, a good husband, good wife. But the yesod, the ikka is not doing things that we get into trouble. Someone asked me a sticky question that he was asked by someone else to extend a loan to him, and he knows this person never pays back the halvois. It's like, avei the midas to loan him the money, or, thank you for your donation. He's going to give him a loan and never see back the money. What could he do? So, l'chayre, this is a perfect example of darkei shalom. What do you say? I don't trust you, you're a ganef? And that's l'chayre pashut. However, there's a Sefer Chassidim, Siman Tav Chavav, who says a chiddush nifla. And that is V'da. He says V'da, like, hear ye, get ready for this one. When is there a heter to lie? The whole broad heter we spoke about this morning. But divrei shalom, but if a yid or a guy, I don't know why he asked that, but a yid or a guy asks you for a loan, and you're afraid to loan him money because you're not going to get paid back, eina yachal loime einli, ki masha amru mut l'shani b'divrei shalom, zeh b'ka'ava hadava. It's only lying about a past deed. Who broke it? Not me. You broke it, but it happened yesterday. So darkei shalom, you're allowed to lie. But to lie in the future, there's no heter. The El Yerabba in Siman Kuf Nun Vav and Archaim, he quotes this chiddush, Mashahut l'shani zeh b'shekvar ava hadava. Past history, you're allowed to lie, but not future. Now, this is quoted by some poskim, and the makor of it, believe it or not, is our Gemara in Yavamis Samach Gimel. Zok the Lev Chaim and Chelik Al Simonei and Bayis Shal Natanson in his Pirush on Gemara in Yavamis. Why did Rav say that Chia can't lie about saying what he wanted for supper? Because that was he's asking, I want this and not that. That's past. Now wait a second. Why can we say it's future? And that's not what Chia held. Chia said, Tati told me yesterday he wants chicken for supper. So the machlokes Rav and Chia seemingly all agreed past is asa. Mutter, future is mutter. But is this past or future? But future is asa, past is mutter. So it's unbelievable. The machlokes Rav and his son. But what's interesting is that why should it be a chiluk? Past or future? Says the Lev Chaim and the Divrei Shol, that's based on not the same yesod. When someone is in trouble already, and basically there's no other way of doing it, you're allowed to lie. But if you're going to give a heter in the future, it's einol davasai. You're going to hear things like peace with myself, and shalom bayis is lying your way out of things. If someone's going to be allowed to lie in the future, then einol davasai. It's going to be mamish hutra ritzua. It's going to be mamish rampant abuse. And that was so as the Gemara Yavamis, and the Yesod is all the same. A blanket heter is going to make a churban. But Lamaisa, the Magen Avram, and Kuf Nun Vav, some Seif and the Tshuva Chelik Vav, Siman Nun Tes, the Rav Palam, Chelik Beis, Chosh Mishpat Aleph, all are Choshev of the Sefer Chassidim. So that means if someone asks you for a loan, you can't say, I don't have, unless you could somehow say, from the past. However, what's interesting is the Rav Shulchan Aruch, and again the wording of the Rav Shulchan Aruch, when every word is counted, the Rav in Kuf Nun Vav Siv Beis quotes this Sefer Chassidim, and he goes, Tzarachi and Ktsas, Kivan Shashalom Dava Godol Mikol HaMitzvahs. Since Shalom is bigger than all mitzvahs, and he quotes the measures I mentioned earlier, Ratzfeyu, so how could you make a limitation only past, not future? But the way he says it with such a conviction, that's the biggest mitzvah, how could you stop it? So the Rav Bayis the Tzarachi and Ktsas. The Mishnah Kuf Nun Vav Siv Katan Daled says Tzarachian. And the Poskim find the Rambam and the Ramban, Torah Lishmar, in Shin Samach Daled, he says that the Divrei Sefer Chassidim is Stumim v'Chasumim, L'maisa, most poskim hold that you don't be chayish for the Sefer Chassidim. Not only in the past is it mutter, even in the future. But of course, you have to be honest. You have to be careful not to abuse it. So the Pischei Choshen in Alva, Aleph, Ha'or Yud Gimel, the Pelayoyitz in Erech Alva, the Orchas Tzadikim in Shar Sheka all say, if someone was asked to give a loan and he's afraid he's never going to see the money again, and it's a real problem, and he can't think of a good excuse, he's allowed to lie, even though it's lahabah. Now the yemis, if someone has a little bit of a ingenuity, he could say, trust me, I can't do it right now. So it sounds like, I have a problem with my business is failing, I don't have the money now. But you can't do it now because you can't afford to give such a big nadava. So even though it's Geneva's das, but at least it's not sheker. So find a way of saying it in a way that you can't do it because of a business problem or you're suffering in business, a setback, you can't give the money. So anyway you could say, you don't say, I would love to help you, because you really don't want to give tzedakah. So I would love to loan you the money, that's true. But the problem is that I'm not going to get it back. But I can't do it, and I can't afford to give you a loan. Maybe that would be a way of doing it. But Lamaisa, the Panovich Rav, this is printed in the Tenuas HaMusa and Chelik Daled, writes that the Chavetz Chaim once came to Beis Medrash looking for him. He was the Talmud of the Chavetz Chaim. And he got scared. What's the matter? He says, someone's coming to my house to ask for a loan, and I know he doesn't pay back the money, and I can't afford to do it. So I want to give you all of my money as a matana. Be kind of the money, and I'll say I have no money. But that's the Heilige Chavetz Chaim. Mamish went the extra mile to avoid any type of sheker. Now, speaking by Shever Brachas, we know, the Gemara says so, and we pass like that, Kala no v'chasuda, no matter what. But this is misunderstood. Because it's not a heter to get up and say ridiculous shkarim. You can't say this chasa when he was by mitzvah finished shas. Doesn't make sense. There's no heter to say sheker gomer, and people don't believe it. But he says a very beautiful yisoy, which the Taz of Hanort and Ebenezer and the Marsha and Ksuba say, that really chen is very much subjective. People have different type of chen. If this chassan chose this kala, the way she looks, even though she's not very pretty, but obviously she found favor in his eyes. So who cares if you don't think she's kala no? It's not gay for you, it's not your kala. Sheker, I'm sorry, yoifi, chen, beauty is very much subjective in the eyes of the beholder. So ilmol lamatzi chen be'einav, he wouldn't have married her. So you're saying kala no v'chasuda for you? To say that, at 8 years old, she finished all of Tanakh. It's not true. It's a lie. A lie. But to say something that is true for the person, that's totally subjective, is fine. Now the emes is, I think there's another heter probably understood also. You come to Shever Brachas, and the way people talk, it doesn't, everybody knows it's just Shever Brachas talk. It's almost understood. It's like an exaggeration. Like people say, he served a ton of food. Is that a lie? He didn't serve a ton of food. But the Gemara says Chazal spoke b'loshin of guzma. So it's understood. So it's understood a Shever Bracha speech, you have to take it with a grain or a handful or a spoonful of salt. It reminds me, I saw once, I was laughing, in the shul there was a long list of people that donated money for Mois Chitim. 98% of the people, they were Memva Ve'Merini Harav. A few people were Harav. One of them was my Shver Zechon Levarach, was Rosh Yeshiva, Davnet Shul, and him was Harav. So 98% of the people, Marenu Harav, and only a few were Harav. What's that? Because Mem Vav Hey means absolutely nothing. Marenu Harav, yeah, but come on. But Harav means Harav. So it's an Olam Hafach. Marenu Harav is more than Harav, right? No, but it's understood. Shever Bracha's speech is basically, it's understood, and I think that's what Taz means. Davi Yedua, Minikala Oilam, that by Shever Brachas they go out to town with all the shvachim. No one takes it seriously. Maybe that's the pshat. Now the emes says these are just a few examples. I want to just say one more point, that there are many more examples, but this is the tightrope that we're walking. Because mitzad echad, there's this superpower, Yisoid of Yiddishkeit called emes. But then again, there's also this superpower called shalom. And the Baruch Shalom's name is both emes and shalom. And it's very hard to give klolim But we did see one thing, the importance of maintaining shalom in our own lives and our own families. That's what shalom bayis is all about. I'll leave you with one more beautiful story. I think it's really an insight into the sugya. Ramat Cheshwab, I was zeicher to know a Yid, Ramat Cheshwab, they called him the Chavetz Chaim of Muncie for a good reason. So I heard it from his mechutin, who heard it from his son, who was a Adam of Ramat Cheshwab. They once found a bank book. Now today we don't have bank books anymore, but a bank book means they used to have a book that had all they had the account, the money you put in and took out, and there was a sizable amount of money in this bank account, bank book. So the family asked, what is this money? They don't know anything about it, and he had it in his drawer. So he tried to deflect the question. Nah, nothing. He goes, but what is it? He said, I'll tell you the truth, it's a shalom account. What's that? I'll tell you the truth, he said. I'm a human being. He was a human being. But anyhow, he said, if I have a run-in with a neighbor, or with a cleaner, about if he cleaned the suit well, or a caterer, or a storekeeper, or a worker, and I feel he did do a good job, and he felt he did a good job, and it wasn't clear. So, if I'm wrong, I have to pay. I pay b'tshuas chen. I don't want to keep someone's money. But let's say I'm 100% right. I know it, and he knows it. But if I walk away right, he's going to feel angry, he's going to feel violated, and he's going to have a resentment. He's going to be a sinner, even though he's wrong, but that's a human being. I don't want to do that. Even though I'm right, but I'm going to cause someone to have a machlokes, sinner. I can't do that. But it's very hard for me to take out money in my pocket and pay when I'm right. So I decided I was magdish a sizable amount of money. I could only use this to maintaining shalom, not when I'm wrong, because then I'm wrong, when I'm right. So this money I can't use anyhow. I might as well be a sport and give it out when I don't have to, when I might as well. Tyre Yidden, we all need a shalom account. Gadol HaShalom, Kol Torah Kul ניתנה Shalom, Lo Yis Goy to do, Al Yishanat Mei machlokes, Eva, Pshara, time and effort. But the reward is a life of Richas Yomim V'Shonim, Takar Baka Shalom V'Atfeyo, Nafreil Chachana Katiwa. Kadza. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbo Mevarach. Amo Meo Mayo. Who? Amen. Okay, just let's review what we learned today. This unusual mitzvah, which is Takachi of the Raisa, Midavei Kabbalah, Midrabanan. The mitzvah of Shalom is Schar, although Schar B'Hai Alma Leka, but this is one of the mitzvahs of Schar B'Hai Alma. We did see that sources in Tanakh, Divrei Kabbalah, the extent of Ratfeyu, unlike other mitzvahs, you have to pursue it. Aaron's pursuit of Shalom was classic. We had a whole sugya of avoiding machlokes, of the lois is going to do, or we said the concept of hoylach makom makom al yishana mei machlokes. We saw that incredible lashon of mutar sheyam tzelem beheichel vayav machlokes b'Yisrael. We're allowed to raise Shem Hashem to keep shalom because Hashem's name is also shalom. Besides Hashem's name, you're allowed to lie when necessary. But it's a unique combination because mitzad echad, it's not only a heter to lie, it's a mitzvah to lie and a chiyuv to lie. But if a person get out of it, then there's no heter. So it's more than hutra. But then again, if you could avoid it, you have to avoid it. The chinuch of emes knei al timkar and chas v'shalom not allow limdu shayim be'er sheker is important to remember. There's definitely a chiyuv to get involved. That's the tzuras ha-mitzvah virat feyu. But l'maisa, when we have a situation that we can't get out of hurting someone, then you're allowed to lie. For example, by a shidduch say I'm busy, or somebody asks you, do you know my shver, or know my, whatever it is, you're allowed to say what he wants to hear. To give tzedakah as a matana is mutat, not to hurt someone's feelings. If you don't trust the kashrus, try to get out of it without lying, but lamaisa, you have to lie if need be, but you're not allowed to eat food that you have a suffix with. If it's only a chumrah, like paspalta, then you're mechuyev to eat. But basically, if people say lashon hara and someone says, what did he say about me? Then don't say the truth. You know, that would be a case of causing machlokes. A surprise birthday party or being at peace with yourself is abusing the heter, obviously. Shalom bayis, the heter, the Shalom did it, even though it was a tiny chance. If you want to refuse a loan, it's not so pashut, try to avoid lying, but l'maisa, there are enough makilim, even though it's a davar haba, they're allowed to lie. The chiddush for Hasidim is questionable, if you're allowed to lie in the future. But l'maisa, the poskim do say that by a shever brachas or stam information, once the shidduch is made, then the attitude is they saw a chen, they have a chen, kalana v'chasuda. I didn't get it. Yes. What? Oh, so you want to give people this?